Good afternoon and welcome to the Melbourne County Koori Court 10-year anniversary. For those who don't know me, my name is Carla Scarfy and I am a proud Wurundjeri woman. I am also the Koori Strategic Advisor at the County Court and have been in this role since July this year. I would like to introduce Wurundjeri Wurrung traditional owner Colin Hunter, who will be performing the traditional smoking ceremony, and welcome to country.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honour and a privilege to be here today. My name is Colin Hunter IV. I would like to start off with acknowledging that this evening we are on Wurundjeri country, home of my ancestors and also home to everybody here this afternoon. I would also like to pay my respects to both elders past, present and emerging, elders from all nations, especially all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community members here this afternoon. Wurundjeri is a part of the Kulin Nation and of the Wurrung language group. Wurundjeri country extends from the inner city of Melbourne across to the Great Dividing Range, west to the Werribee River, south to the Mordialloc Creek and east to Mount Baw. A big thank you to everybody who has helped make this event possible this evening. Wurundjeri, welcome, and hopefully everyone gets to enjoy today's lovely weather. Now, before I start the smoking ceremony, a smoking ceremony is a reference of the cleansing of the mind, body and soul. And a similar tradition that many of us may have the privilege of carrying on today is in the same reflection as to many, many years ago in travel. So if you ever have the privilege of travelling overseas, you will be required to hand your passport over into customs and you will be welcomed into that country. And the first thing I've always done every time I've travelled is get straight to the hotel room to have a nice, refreshing and cleansing shower. I'll now start the smoking ceremony and demonstrate how it is done, and everyone is more than welcome to come up and participate today. Again, thank you very much and enjoy. Very much, ladies and gentlemen, more than welcome to come up. If you want to put some in, if you'd like to put some in, you're more than welcome to put some in. Yes, no, it's very strong and very potent.
What's it? Smoke on.
I'll do it. I'll be the last one.
Thank you again, and good afternoon, and welcome to the Melbourne County Koori Court 10-year anniversary. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on today, the Wurundjeri people. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to all other elders and Aboriginal people here today and those who have joined us online. Thank you again for attending the County Koori Court's 10-year anniversary. The County Koori Court has now been in operation for 15 years, with the first County Koori Court sitting in Latrobe Valley in 2008. Another milestone was achieved last week when the Latrobe Valley County Koori Court celebrated its 15-year anniversary. Since the launch of the Latrobe Valley in 2008, the County Koori Court has expanded to sit in Melbourne in 2013, Mildura in 2016, Shepparton in 2018, Warrnambool in 2019, Geelong in 2021, Wodonga in 2022, and most recently in Bendigo in July this year. Of course, the County Koori Court wouldn't be what it is today without the staunch Aboriginal leaders who have fought and continue to fight tirelessly for the rights of our people and communities. And in particular, our Koori Court elders and respected persons who continue to play an integral role in the County Koori Court and more broadly in our communities. I am pleased to see many of you joined us today. I would now like to invite Chief Judge Peter Kidd, Chief Judge of the County Court in Victoria, to open with a few words.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Carla, and I too pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land in which we're all sitting today and meeting today, the leaders of the Wurundjeri nation, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Well, Carla's mentioned already some of the achievements of the County Koori Court. I wasn't here when the first discussions were had with respect to the County Koori Court back in 2006. And in fact, it was Michael Rosines, who was the Chief Judge at the time, who started those discussions. And that resulted in the Latrobe Valley commencing in 2008. And as Carla said, we've just celebrated 15 years very recently this year. It started in 2008, and then 2013, of course, was here in August 2013. And we now have got a County Koori Court in 8 regions throughout Victoria. During my time here, which is sort of about 8 years, I've been involved in opening several of those. So it's just terrific to see how it's expanded and matured over those years, including even here at the Melbourne County Court continues to mature with its Aboriginal justice reports, which provide a deep understanding of the connection between members of the Aboriginal community and their communities, their history, and how that is to be used in the justice process. I'm delighted to see Paul Grant here, actually, who was one of the heads of the County Koori Court for a period when I first came here, and I should acknowledge a number of the other judicial leaders of the County Koori Court. John Smallwood, Scotty Johns, Irene Lawson. So all these judges have fully supported the Koori Court over the years, as have all the judges who've sat in the Koori Court, which has really expanded. It wasn't so many years ago that the number was reasonably small because, of course, all the judges have had to undergo training, cultural training, and they've all done that. And now we've got a very large pool of judges who sit in the County Koori Court. But speaking of Paul Grant, it does remind me of one of the conversations that has to be had, unfortunately, from time to time, and that is this suggestion that the Koori Court justice is somehow apartheid justice, or that it's separate and distinct from the traditional forms of justice in this state and doesn't deserve its place. And of course, as we all know, that's completely wrong. And I remember going on with Paul on 3AW, Neil Mitchell had raised those very questions on a show on one occasion, and Paul joined me on one of the occasions on 3AW, and we made the arguments as to why Koori Court justice is just so important to the justice of this state, not just Aboriginal people, but the justice more broadly of this state. And it reminds me of a quote that I have actually used before from Dr. June Oscar. I think I used it when the Geelong the Warrnambool Court was being opened, and Dr. Oscar A.O., who was an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island Social Justice Commissioner, in fact still is, back in 2017 delivered a speech, and she made these points which I could never make in the same articulate way in which she said it, and Paul and I used this when we were on radio, and I quote, "The initiative of the Koori Courts has helped improve justice outcomes for the Koori community, which in turn benefits all Victorians. Further, the outcomes have been more successful in individual cases, have improved the engagement of Koori communities and the justice system, and helped build capacity within Koori communities." Anyone who's been involved in Koori Court justice doesn't need any persuading about any of that. And in addition to acknowledging the role that the heads of the Koori Court have played over the last 10 years here in Melbourne, but 15 years more broadly across Victoria, I want to acknowledge the really important role that the Koori Court's elders and respected persons have played. And not only in the running of the courts themselves, but in the education of judges. Many are here today who sit in Melbourne and indeed throughout the regions, and it's terrific to have you here, and you are very much front and centre to the success of the Melbourne Koori Court. You continue to contribute significantly to ensuring that the Koori Court model delivers justice fairly, and that it's accessible justice, and that we have outcomes for the Koori community. I also extend my thanks to the members of the staff, the County Court staff and Court Services staff, who play such an important role in the machinery of running the courts. We know what's involved in keeping a court operating efficiently, not just with the interaction of representatives and accused persons, but obviously setting up everything with the elders and respected persons and the judges and the like. And they run it incredibly smoothly. They don't like to be in the spotlight too much, but we just couldn't survive without them. So I certainly want to acknowledge all members of the Koori Court unit. Well, on that note, it's great to see such a large number of you turning up today, including from other courts. I noticed Rose over there, from the Magistrates Court as well. Of course, the Magistrates Koori Court was there beforehand, and it's really wonderful that so many have come today. So look, enjoy today, and thank you very much again for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I now invite Judge Scott Johns, Judge in charge of the County Koori Court, to say a few words.
Thanks, Carla, and thanks, Chief Judge. The last time I followed the Chief Judge was at my welcome, and my speech went for half an hour, so I promised to keep it much shorter today. I think it's still a record. And I'll echo some of the things that the Chief Judge touched on, but hopefully not be repetitive. I also want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we're meeting on, the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay deep respect to elders past and present. And I extend that respect to our elders and respected persons attending here today, and to all First Nations staff and others who are attending here today to help us celebrate, and to everyone that's here today to celebrate these 10 years of the County Koori Court. Everyone here in various ways is a part of this story. It's a celebration of a genuine partnership and a journey of friendship and respect that we've been on here in Melbourne now for 10 years. There are many parts to the successful operation of the County Koori Court. For the judges and County Court staff involved in the Koori Courts, and I include in that associates and specialist court staff, the Koori Court officers, comms, registry, many others, collectively we are celebrating the opportunity we've had for the past 10 years here in Melbourne to work with the Koori community, to work with our elders and respected persons, supported by this court's wonderful Koori Court unit led by Terry Stewart. It's not just those employed by the court, of course, who make it work. It's the participants and their families service providers, Office of Corrections, and of course legal practitioners on the defence side of the table and also on the prosecution side. And the APP and the Director have been consistent and committed supporters of this court over the journey. Thank you all for your commitment. It's a privilege for judges and staff involved in the Koori Court to work with the elders and respected persons and the Koori Court unit to deliver this important cultural right for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It's a privilege for us to have the opportunity to play a role in providing a voice for those before the court and their supporters. The Chief Judge talked about the history of the Koori Courts and touched on the model designed by the Aboriginal community back in 2000 or thereabouts. And it's that model that's the key to the success of Koori Courts. It's the model that empowers the Aboriginal voice and Aboriginal participation in a safe cultural setting, and of course the elders are central to that process. It's a powerful process, and observers often remark they're struck by the humanity of the court. You witness the hope for a fresh start, but also the despair at times, anguish, regret and remorse. And these feelings emerge in a very visceral way during the sentencing conversation that lies at the heart of the process. It's a process that shows the power of people who have been historically alienated or excluded or disadvantaged by a system having a voice and being heard. The person before the court is told, this is a court which respects Aboriginal culture, you have a voice and you'll be heard. And what follows is the sentencing conversation conducted by the elders, and of course without our elders and respected persons there would be no Koori Court. So it's only right that today we are honouring elders and respected persons, some who have retired, worked with the court previously, many who couldn't be here with us for various reasons, but all of whom have made a great contribution to this court's success over the past decade. The family of the late Aunty Joan Vickery are here today, and I pay my respects to them. Aunty Joan Vickery's tireless commitment to community and Koori Court is typical of the elders and respected persons we have here in this court. Aunty Joan, a proud Wurundjeri woman, was a strong proponent of the County Koori Court. She played an active role in its establishment. I was only talking with Paul Grant last week about when, as our Chief Judge touched on, former Chief Judge Michael Rosines instigated the County Koori Court, and Paul Grant, together with Andrew Jacomos, who's here, and engaged with the Aboriginal community down in Latrobe Valley, where the County Koori Court commenced. And so the Latrobe Valley 15 years celebration is very much part of the Melbourne County Koori Court story. Aunty Joan was a strong advocate for improving Aboriginal health and access to justice. She played a key role in the establishment of this court. She sat at Broadmeadows Magistrates Koori Court as well as here in Melbourne. She held a master's degree in public health and was made an Officer of the Order of Australia in 2005. Many of our elders and respected persons have similarly outstanding records of commitment to their community. The sentencing conversation works because the elders bring that rich lived experience to the court. They draw on their cultural knowledge, their connection to family, ancestors and the importance of country. They also bring a shared experience to the conversation, a shared experience as Aboriginal people, a shared history, history which includes some of the more shameful aspects of Victorian history, a history too littered with injustices to summarise in the time that I have. And I often reflect in sitting in Koori Court how resilient our elders and respected persons are in having those conversations over and over, bringing up traumas that sit within that shared experience. So to our elders and respected persons, you are inspirational in the way that you do your work, fighting for your community to have that voice in the criminal justice system, and continuing to show that resilience even in difficult times, as there have been for your community in recent weeks. You are a vital part of the County Court. You are very highly valued by this court, and as a court we are committed to promoting inclusion, self-determination and listening at every opportunity. As the Chief Judge touched upon, and I've touched upon, the story commences with Latrobe Valley Court, but we're very proud of the progress that's been made in the Melbourne County Koori Court over 10 years. And I also want to acknowledge Paul Grant, who's here, the former judge in charge, also former judges in charge, Irene Lawson. Former Judge David Parsons couldn't be here today, but he was very much involved in the inception of the County Koori Court. And of course, Judge John Smallwood, who was judge in charge for 6 years. As I understand it, there was some scepticism in some quarters when it was first mooted that perhaps the County Koori Court could adopt the Magistrates Court model. That scepticism based on, we obviously deal with more serious matters in this court. There's tougher sentencing options, perhaps less flexibility. And we know now that it does work, and it works well, and it works because the model works. It works where victims in serious matters such as culpable driving cases or serious injury cases attend court and participate. I don't have time now to go into some of those stories, but when we're breaking for refreshments, I'm sure Paul Grant or Aunty Pam or others that have been in those settings will be happy to talk with you about them. In preparing for this, I had a bit of a look at the Melbourne County Koori Court archives, such as they are. Irene Lawson kept wonderful records that I still have on my shelves, and many of those records involve Paul Grant's works and letters and memorandums and transcripts. I'm still trying to locate the records from John Smallwood's 6 years in charge, but I think they might be down in the valley somewhere. But when looking through those records, I found a letter from 2016 that Paul Grant wrote in relation to funding. And just a small part of the letter reads, "Currently we have funding for a full-time position at Melbourne. Terry Stewart occupies the position. She is an outstanding worker who is highly respected within the Koori community. In recent times she has carried a heavy workload covering Melbourne, the Latrobe Valley and the establishment of the Wurundjeri Court. Well, that workload now includes Wodonga, Bendigo, Shepparton, Geelong and Warrnambool. She is ably supported by Kylie Spencer and Shirley Annesley before she moved to the drug court, and hopefully will be able to replace that position. But as you all know here, Terry has been an enormous driver of the success of the Melbourne County Koori Court, supported by others in the court. But there's too many people to mention who make this County Koori Court work, but if we're going to name one, it would be Terry Stewart, who can't be here, she's in Hawaii, but I think it's only right that we give Terry a round of applause. Her engagement with the community has been the key driver, obviously under the instigation and support of the Rajaks and the Aboriginal Justice Caucus, but in us expanding to 8 regions in the state. That's a mark of the success of the courts, that the Rajaks, the Aboriginal community, through the Rajaks and the Aboriginal Justice Caucus, have wanted Koori courts in their region, and we've been happy to expand. There's many other markers of success. There's a lot of intangibles when you're measuring success for Koori court. What the participant gets out of it. We know that there's better compliance with court orders. We know there's good evidence to suggest it helps in breaking the cycle, particularly in the evaluations we have had in years gone by. We know that participants' voice, that they've got a lot out of it, engaging in the cultural process with the elders. We now have, I think, over 50 elders sitting in the county court statewide, and that's another mark of the success of the courts and the endorsement of the Aboriginal community. Another measure of the success is the experience of judges sitting in the Koori Court. Invariably, the feedback is that judges are better informed about the person before the court, just for having heard their voice, but particularly for hearing them engage in the conversation. It also enhances cultural awareness for judges. And in the 10 years that we've been operating in Melbourne, there's also been Court of Appeal decisions that have endorsed the significance of Koori Court sentencing conversation in sentencing matters, cases such as Morgan and Honeysett. And in 2018, Koori Court participation was recognised as a cultural right for eligible First Nations people, reflective of the international human right for self-determination for First Nations people in the Supreme Court decision of Chimino and others. So in the County Court here, we are committed to facilitating that cultural right to as many eligible participants as possible. There's a lot to celebrate and a lot to look forward to, and we look forward to continuing a journey of understanding, inclusion and achievement for many years to come with all of you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Judge Johns. I am now honoured to introduce Aunty Yvonne Luke. Aunty Yvonne is an Aliawara woman who was born and raised in Victoria. Aunty Yvonne has worked many years in Koori youth justice, both in government and community organisations. Through her work in this area, Aunty Yvonne was extensively involved with the establishment of the Children's Koori Court in both Melbourne and Mildura. Following Aunty Yvonne's retirement, she was appointed to the Youth Parole Board as the alternate Koori member. In addition to her professional work, Aunty Yvonne has sat on a number of boards and committees. Aunty Yvonne has been sitting as an elder and County Koori Court as an elder on the County Koori Court since 2017 and has significantly contributed to the success of the County Koori Court. I now invite Aunty Yvonne to say a few words.
Thank you. First I have to say what a privilege it is to be speaking in front of our esteemed elders and our judges that sit on our courts. I'd like to, before I start, acknowledge that we're on Wurundjeri country. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, but also to all our elders here today and our community members as well. Thank you. I've taken quite a bit of my thunder. I was going to talk about my life within justice. As I started off, I worked with Terry Stewart at the Burt Williams Centre in Thornbury for many, many years, and Terry and I came before Judge Grant up at the Broadmeadows Court on many occasions. It was very sad in the early 90s when we were working with the young people. Many a times they wouldn't even turn up to court and they'd get bench warrants, and no parents would come with them. So we used to go and knock on their doors and say, come to court, and you won't have any warrants, and they'd come to court with us. And to see the difference today, especially in the Children's Koori Court, family come with them to court, and it is amazing that our community is supporting the courts by helping the young people, especially in the Children's Court. I said, as you mentioned, that I went to head office of Youth Justice in 2004 and worked with the Department of Justice under the guidance of Andrew Jackanos to implement the second phase of the Aboriginal Justice Agreement. Andrews was very successful in getting the budget for all our programs, and including in that program was implementing the Children's Koori Court. I worked intensively with Rosemary Smith, and we implemented the Children's Koori Court in Melbourne, and then later in Mildura. I was still at that time sitting on the Broadmeadows Magistrates Koori Court, and then I retired in 2009. I was actually appointed to the Youth Parole Board, so at that stage it was seen to be a conflict of interest to be sitting on the parole board and the court, so I resigned from the court. At that time I missed a lot of friends that I made with the elders there. Also, my friend Terry Stewart was the Koori worker at Broadmeadows Court as well. So I've had a long relationship with Terry. After I retired from the parole board after 9 years, I had more input into the county court. And look, it's been such a privilege to be able to be part of the county court. I've sat with many of our elders, and it's, to see the growth in the courts, the support that our community get in the courts. It's really, great to see. But really what I would like to see is that early intervention. When we implemented the second phase of the Aboriginal Justice Agreement, I really thought that, we'd put interventions at every stage. We put a police cautioning program in place, we put a bail support program, a pre and post-release program, more positions in the youth, Koori Youth Justice program, and of course in the Koori Children's Court. And it's really sad to see that our people are still overrepresented in the justice system. I'm currently working on a program with Dr. Lois Peeler, and it's early intervention program. And I really hope that it's a draft at the moment, or a pilot, I should say. And look, if this program gets up and running, we'll be capturing young people before they come in contact with the justice system. And that's what I would really love to see. Okay, that's about it I've got to say. So thank you for listening to me.
So good afternoon everyone. My name is Kylie Spencer. I'm a proud Wurundjeri Wurrung woman. I'm also the Koori Court Officer for the County Court, and I have been in this role nearly 4 years now. On the 10th anniversary of the County Koori Court, we'd like to acknowledge a number of our elders and respected persons contribution to Melbourne County Koori Court over the past 10 years. Some of them are still sitting today, others have retired, and some have passed on to the dream time. To acknowledge the dedication of our elders and respected persons who have played an integral role, and we would like to present them with a certificate of appreciation. I'd like to invite Chief Judge Peter Kidd and Judge in charge of the County Koori Court, Judge Scott Johns, to present the elders and respected persons with their certificates. So first we have Uncle Wally Harrison.
Thank you.
Helen Archibald. Uncle Trevor Gallagher. Aunty Yvonne Luke. Uncle David Farrall. Aunty Pam Pederson.
I can't accept this without talking. Goodness me. Everyone knows that I like to talk because I just want to, have a yarn about, I remember when, we were talking about this. I think we went to a restaurant somewhere, did we, Andrew? And I remember Michael Rose, it was, I think we went to Sindos, was that right? I remember we had a good yarn at that restaurant talking about, starting up this court. I have not given secrets away now. But anyhow, it was such a privilege because, myself thinking about that evening when we were talking about, about this court, I thought, gosh, how wonderful, starting up a county Koori Court. Because I was sitting on the Children's Koori Court and I thought, yes, the county Koori Court, this is what we need. And I am just so grateful to be sitting here on this court. I just get such a pleasure when I come here. I love meeting you all, and the people who come before me, I like to have a yarn and tell them off too, but we've got to pull them into line. But this court has been amazing because I remember too, some of the judges didn't want this court. And I thought, I didn't really like that. And I remember when I come along to a function, I thought, right, I'm going to sit next to you. So I did. So I came along and anyhow to the Christmas function. I got yarning about the court and, talking about the good things and how good, to have this court. Why not? So once again, I am so privileged to be sitting on this court. I love sitting with the judges and especially our people coming before us who we can help. This is what we do. We've got to try and help them so they're not coming before us all the time. And it's so good when we have some great cases and some good stories. But thanks once again for having me. I just love this court. It's my favourite. Shouldn't have favourites. Never mind, I do. But it's so good. And thank you so much. And thank you to all you guys.
Thank you. Now I'm going to make this tall again because I'm...
Sorry. Get that going again. Here we are.
Thank you, Judge.
Remember that happened.
We'd also like to acknowledge the following elders and respected persons who couldn't join us today and would receive their certificates in a later date. Aunty Lynn McGuinness, Aunty Zeta Thompson, Thelma Austin, Uncle Rod Jackson, Aunty Jackie Stewart, Aunty Faye Muir, Uncle Jim Berg, Steve Delaney, Uncle Graham Austin Wilkie, Aunty Helga and Lawrence Mazer. There is one elder who cannot be with us this afternoon, but is with us in spirit. That is Aunty Joan Vickery. Aunty Joan was one of the first of many elders to sit on Melbourne County Koori Court when it first launched in 2013. I'd like to acknowledge her family here with us this afternoon. Joyce Murphy, Bob Vickery, Dawn Vickery and Annette Vickery. I'd like to invite the family up and present them with a gift in recognition of Aunty Joan Vickery's work during her time as an elder on Melbourne's County Koori Court.
So we're really reluctant.
To close the event, I would like to thank you all for joining us today to celebrate this significant milestone for the County Court. I would like to thank Colin Hunter for his warm welcome to country and traditional smoking ceremony. I would also like to acknowledge Terry Stewart, County Koori Court Coordinator, who couldn't be with us today because she's enjoying a well-deserved extended leave. Terry's contribution to the County Koori Court over the last decade has been unwavering, and the County Koori Court would not be where it is today if not for Terry's direction. I would also like to thank Judge Johns for his leadership and commitment to the County Koori Court, as well as all other judges who have contributed to the Melbourne County Koori Court over the last decade. A special thank you to the County Koori Court Officer Kylie Spetzer, Prem Kanagaratna and the Specialist Courts team for their coordination of today's event. Thank you and please join us for refreshments.